Hello, everyone. Welcome to Newcastle Fans TV. We are live on YouTube and Twitter and on Nova Radio 102.5 FM.
The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
Hey, that was a fancy opening, wasn't it? I like that. I do like that. As you can see, I'm joined by my fellow beard friend, Johnny Greenwood, and not so hairy Kyle Thompson. Kyle, how are you doing, first of all?
Fresh off a shave, unlike used to, so am I. Looking fresh, so I'm not doing too bad. How about yous?
Not bad. Johnny, how are you?
Yeah, very, very good. My beard's been getting mentioned for the last couple of days now, so I'll let the viewers decide whether I should get rid of it or not.
Let us know whose beard is best. Right, so tonight's show, this first section is you've only got me for one section, bad times. Good news is you'll have Kyle two times. In this section, we're going to be not so much talking about the takeover because, look, we've already seen some of the pre-comments. These are sick of hearing the latest news. We've got no news for you. We're just going to be talking and discussion about the takeover and what's happened with a couple of, what you would say, MPs, you would call it that. And later on in the second section, Johnny's going to be touching upon about the likes of Danny Rose speaking out against coming back, and we'll have a few other things about basically players fighting back. And then in the third section, we're going to have a little bit of fun. Kyle's got a few games for us as well. And
one game.
Stay tuned for that. And, of course, during the show, you'll also see Sam and Owen. So, Kyle, what's your general thoughts on the takeover currently?
It's just one of them. It's taking it a day at a time. I haven't got a timeline on anything now with it. I'm not expecting it to happen on a certain date, which was what we have been doing. So it might happen Tuesday or Thursday or whatever. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. It's just one of them. But I'm just waiting and hoping the same patience is good things come to those who wait. I'm hoping that saying rings true in this situation. But yeah, I haven't got an expected date anymore or a deadline. It's just if it happens, it happens, man.
Johnny, you said on PD Proudlock's plug there for your Peter stream, you're not so worried yet. You're going to give it another couple of weeks. Johnny shakes his head, not speaking. No.
I think it'll.
Oh, there we're gone.
Am I back? No, I'm just saying. I think I'm not too concerned. If it's another 2 weeks, it's another 2 weeks. If it's another couple of days, it's another couple of days. But I'm not massively concerned just yet. I think if there was more news of saying that they've found a red flag, then that's when I would get a bit more worried. But I'm not massively worried at the minute.
Okay, keep your WhatsApp coming as well. 0747 649 7166. Sam is in the background doing all the graphics. So, so please keep your WhatsApp coming in. About 15-20 minutes, we'll read them out. And then later on, around about half an hour, 40 minutes in, we'll read them out again. And we'll move on to section 2. In a minute, we're going to be hearing what Jose Enrique said. And Jose Enrique spoke to Johnny. Look at you can see him smiling. He's very proud of that as well. So
it's on the TV.
Yeah, the reason why we're going to bring this because Jose Enrique does say a few things in this. Take a look at this.
Speaking from outside, I'm an ex-player now, so I can speak a bit more about it. For me, at the end, McCasley he bought the club, and I think he did well in a few years on the club. Obviously, in other things he didn't, like any other owner, I believe. Obviously, the expectation Newcastle have, and they are right to have, is a top 6 team, and they are not in that position. So obviously, they are not happy with him because they expect to be the team where they deserve, because Everton is there right now, and Newcastle is much bigger team than Everton. It was much bigger team than Manchester City, but obviously the owner came and put so much money, and he was there. So at the end, it's what it is, you know. There should be a top 6 team. McCasley, if he doesn't want to spend more in the team, or he doesn't have the time or whatever, and maybe it's the best time for him to sell, yeah, and more when you have good offers on the table. But at the end, like I said, it's going to be his decision. He's the one who owns the club. Obviously, like you say, the fans, they are not happy with him. So he will, if I was him, I would sell it, because at the end, I believe if you are somewhere that people are not happy with you, or you are not happy with, it's better to change it, you know, and just leave it, and that's all. But at the end, it's going to be his decision. But if he will be good for the club, hopefully, yeah, you never know. A lot of owners come, promise things, and then maybe they don't bring what you want. So you never know. But obviously, it looks like they want to come. And obviously, when you buy a club for that amount of money, it looks like you want to make it bigger. So I really hope Newcastle come back to the top 6 team again, because they deserve it. They deserve it.
And that was Jose Enrique speaking to Johnny a few days ago. We've got a special second part about Jose and his career as well. And we don't want to give too many hints away, but yeah, stay tuned for that. Now, what came out of that for me, Kyle, is we're bigger than Everton. Are we?
Of course we're bigger than Everton. I mean, they're outside of Sunderland, their fan base seems the most saltiest with this news of the takeover, and I really don't know why. I don't know what this hatred towards us is. It might just be they might hate a certain Florian Lejeune for scoring 2 in a minute at Goodison a couple of months ago, but yeah, if we're a much bigger club than Everton, I feel. Both haven't won a trophy in a while, but the difference is they've got this small club complex when it comes to the local rivals. That's why they have like an affiliation with Sunderland, because they're like the smaller side of a rivalry. So I think that's why they hate an affiliation with Sunderland. But if there's any Everton fans watching, let us know why Newcastle United aren't liked. Because I genuinely don't know what the hatred is stemmed from. I don't know if it is what I've said or anything like that. Just it seems strange, doesn't it?
It seems to me that they think that we think that we're a top 6 side. And Johnny, are we a top 6 side, Johnny?
Not at the minute, we're not. But obviously, I know a couple of people that are Everton fans that I spoke to at university, and the reason why they kind of have a dislike towards Newcastle is the fact that they think they're bigger than what they are. They think that they deserve to be in a certain place on the table and deserve to be higher up. I think they kind of mistake that for a little bit as ambition. I think they don't like the fact that a lot of people think Newcastle are bigger than Everton. It's a debate. Everton have won more trophies, which you can't deny. So they have that on their side. But
you see the state of the stadium?
I think they look at it as more, yes, you might have the stadium. Yes, you might have the extra 15,000, 17,000 fans in the stadium. But what have you won? And the fact Everton have been higher up in the table for God knows how many years, apart from maybe the last season under par, or one of the seasons under par where we finished 5th. So they've always got that trying to one up us, but always try and back me corner. I think there's a valid reason for Newcastle fans thinking that. But if we're being realistic, I would say Everton are just a little bit bigger at the minute. Just with hopefully if we get a takeover, you would think that Newcastle could go way past Everton. But at the minute, I don't think we're quite there yet.
I think it's because we're renowned for probably you take the big sticks away. You then look at Newcastle, Everton, Villa to some extent, and West Ham. But I don't know what Everton fans, they seem to throw hate on us every time we get to Goodison as well. But another thing that came out there, and it's common knowledge, is that Mike Ashley needs to sell, Kyle. Even the footballers are talking about it. You talked about a little bit earlier on. You're waiting and waiting and waiting. Do you think Mike Ashley will sell very shortly, or is it a case of just hanging on?
Well, if what's being said is to be believed, Lee, by like the Colton and people like that, everything's already in place. Everything's just hinging on this test. So by that, it would seem that there is a willingness to sell this time because everything aligns and things like that. But then again, he needs to sell the club. I mean, look at the tax bill that he had to pay to Belgium recently. To be honest, it's got nothing to do with football, but I'm expecting the government to go down hard on him when this stuff with the coronavirus settles down for keeping his shop open for one, and then the investigations into him trying to make his staff work on furlough. Do you know what I mean? So if that's found to be true, he's not just looking at selling Newcastle being his list of priorities. He's going to be looking at potentially court cases and things like that as well. So, it might just be a case he needs to get rid of Newcastle before the government go for him, because it's a possibility, Lee.
It is a real possibility. Keep your WhatsApp coming in, 0747 649 7166. Sam, if you can put that on screen for everyone to have a look at for a couple of minutes. We'll read out some of your WhatsApp very, very shortly as well. But I wanted to come up, Johnny, about another MP has spoken out. Giles Watling wants the investigation of the takeover to be looked at the very least. Why is he piping up all of a sudden, Johnny?
I think he's probably recognised that a lot of people say, a threat from the Saudis in particular. I don't think they like the fact of what's been alleged. I think he just wants maybe a bit more thorough investigation to be investigated by the man at the top. But we've said this countless times before, Lee. Boris Johnson, we've seen shake hands with Prince Mohammed bin Salman. We've seen Theresa May when she was Prime Minister. We've seen the Queen shake hands with him. We've got trade deals with Saudis all the time. They've given the rest of the world, or they've put in $500 million to see if they can get a cure for coronavirus, or a vaccine for coronavirus just recently. So I don't think there's. I think there's, because of this one journalist that was killed allegedly by them, people are going, nah, you don't want this, you don't want this, or we don't need this as a city or in the Premier League. And I think a lot of people think that this is a really bad thing for Newcastle. The bad thing is Mike actually still being at this football club. Let's see what happens after that. If it is worse than that, then we'll put our hands up and we'll say, do you know what, they were right. But I'd rather take the gamble right now.
Kyle, you were mentioning earlier on that the Premier League check. Is it just the Premier League check that's holding this up, or is there more to it than this?
Well, I think it's the test, and whatever this MP's going on about, a load of BS for me, like, because that's the point in taking the test, is it not? Like, is it not? That's why they're taking the test. That's why tests are in place, so they can check if there's any illegitimacy about these potential owners to be. That's why things like that are in place. So instead of asking for something that's already happening, just stop and let the process go instead of waffling your gums for clicks. Stop being a moron. Do you know what I mean? It's like simple, really.
Yeah, let's have a little look what you're saying on WhatsApp as I begin to load this up. And remember, please keep your WhatsApp coming in. We are guaranteed to read these out as well. We've had a couple that have come in. This is from Unknown, and he says it took the Premier League 7 weeks to ratify the Manchester City takeover. Chill, folks. This is happening. Is that more reassuring, Kyle?
I mean, I'm not sure how long the Man City deal took, to be honest. I've seen several different people say several different things. I've seen 4 weeks, I've seen 5 weeks, and now I've seen 7 weeks. So it's hard to say how long things like this will take, obviously with coronavirus, obviously with what's going on in the world as well, that might delay things further. But it's hard to say. It's just a waiting game. I'm not putting a deadline on anything. Like I said before, I'm just going to wait and see what happens. And if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, then we're in for a toxic couple of weeks. But yeah, it just no deadline for me. If it happens, it happens.
And Jack's come in as well, and he said, new owners and big investments. What is a realistic aim for next season, Johnny?
I think a realistic aim is just to improve on what we've done. At the minute, if we were to say finish around about 11th to 15th roughly, or 10th to 15th, I think you would have to say, can we try and finish in the top half and maybe knock on the door for the Europa League? It just depends on the amount of investment that is brought into the football club. If there's plenty of investment there, then potentially Newcastle could go, well, can we try and compete for the Europa League? I think walk rather than run, but I'll take a top half finish next season.
Really? Top half? I think that is realistic, to be fair. I think you've got to look at it, and even if the takeover does happen, we're not going to get your Neymars, Ronaldinho's and all that. Like, Ronaldinho's going back a few years, and he was linked to, what was it, Bolton, wasn't it? So, yeah, we'll see with these Brazilian big stars. But we're going to hear in just a second with Amanda Staveley. And she was speaking to Owen. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Amanda Staveley wants Newcastle United. She's not giving up. Have a little look at what she said to Owen, what Matthew Raisbeck said to Owen. Here it is.
Well, she hasn't really gone away, has she? I remember when the talks were ended by Mike Ashley in early 2018, and he described it as a waste of time. She gave an interview to the Times newspaper, and I can recall the way that she spoke about it then, and she sounded as if she was very determined in her attempts to acquire Newcastle United. And I know around that time that there was talk that she was still interested and she may come back in the future. And, you know, we're 2.5 years on almost from that period, certainly from the Liverpool game in October 2017 when we first saw her in the stands at St James's Park. Yeah. So this is obviously, I think, felt like it's turned out to be a long-term commitment for her, in the sense that she has come back and she's brought this thing together to get it to the stage that it's at. We all know about her. I think that she was involved in that takeover that transformed Manchester City 11 years ago, and there was an unsuccessful attempt that she was involved in to acquire Liverpool when Rafa Benitez was there. So obviously, when Rafa was at Newcastle, there was an established link between the two, which I think was very exciting for supporters. What that means about now and the future, well, I'm not quite sure, but of course, it's very easy to make the connection between her and Rafa Benitez. She's from North Yorkshire as well, so I suppose relatively local to Newcastle. But obviously, this is the kind of thing that she does. Brokers deals, is involved in big money transactions, and clearly wants to get involved in football and particularly Newcastle United. And because it's been obviously a longer term thing, and I think some of the research and the work that was done a couple of years ago, as we understand, this is someone who is obviously serious about being well informed about the club and the city and what the club means. And when Mike Ashley bought the club in 2007, he famously didn't do due diligence, and I don't think he really knew what he was getting into. So everything I think that we've been told and that is out there about Amanda Staveley, certainly, and perhaps the Reuben brothers, who have business interests in Newcastle and in the Northeast, would suggest that they might have a good idea about what exactly they could be getting into if this goes through.
Yeah, very positive. Very positive. Johnny, does this give you hope? Because we've talked about it just there, Owen, when he spoke to Matthew Reisbeck. Amanda Staveley's not giving up. She wants this to happen.
I can't hear anything coming out of here, Lee. So I don't know if you want to ask that question to Kyle, because I can't hear anything coming from you.
Right, Kyle, I'll ask you that question then, because Johnny's having technical issues. Amanda Staveley's not giving up. Is this positive for us as fans to believe?
Well, the facts are there. Lee, she hasn't given up on me. Mike actually called her a time waster and just went away. She just found investors like the PIF, like the Rubens brothers, and she wants investment herself in the football club. So for me, it just shows how defined she's been and wanting to keep this going and eventually have ownership of the club. She hasn't given up. Like, fair play to her. And if the takeover is completed, she'll be one of the first people I praise for damn sure, because she's done a fantastic job in there. Keep going, because working with Mike Ashley for a couple of years would be probably an impossible job for a lot of work, but she's stuck to her guns and just kept going. So fair play to her indeed.
Okay, so Johnny is just reconnecting for people who are watching. Can you hear us now, Johnny?
Yeah, he is.
Right,
Yeah,
so he's back.
Just couldn't hear you for 5 seconds there.
Not like you have broadband technical problems.
I was waiting for that.
Oh, for people who don't know, Jose Enrique has criticised Johnny's internet. You shall see that in the group as we should be out in a few weeks. So good banter. Now back to negatives. And sorry, lads, to bring this up, but we all love a good love letter, don't we? And we've had our few at Newcastle the last few months, maybe going back 6 months, with fan groups as well. Now, and I apologise, I can't pronounce this very well. It's Hatis Cengiz. Have I pronounced that right, lads?
I'm not going to attempt that.
Neither am I. Well done, Lee.
She's obviously the widow of the alleged. Now, I've got to keep saying alleged, because it's alleged that the Mohammed bin Salman and his group murdered her husband. And she's pleading with Newcastle fans not to allow the takeover to go through. For me, I feel like politics and football would know that it should be kept separate. But there seems to be a new thing every few days, every week, that there's something that is political and it keeps coming back. And I feel, Kyle, that this is a bit of guilt tripping us.
It's pathetic. Honestly, I really do feel sorry for her that she's lost her husband in whatever, but it's got nothing to do with Newcastle fans. Did we ask for the PIF to come in for her? No, we didn't. At the end of the day, we're just supporting a team. We've wanted to make Ashley out the football club now for 13 years, and it's a joke that we're being guilt tripped. What does she want me to do? Go out and protest when the social distancing? What does she want me to do? Does she want me to go on social media and say, keep Mike Ashley at the club? That's not our place. If you've got a problem, take it up with the government, take it up with the relevant parties that are dealing with passing the tests and whatnot. Don't try and guilt trip us, because it's not up to us to veto a takeover. It's not down to us fans. We didn't ask for Mike Ashley. We didn't ask for PIF, we didn't ask for any of it. We just want our football club to thrive. And if PIF give us the best chance of doing that, then us as football fans should be allowed to have that without being guilt-tripped and feeling almost embarrassed to support Newcastle United. It's a joke, if you ask me. I really do feel sorry for her for losing her husband, but it's a disgrace the way trying to guilt-trip Newcastle fans. It's got nothing to do with us at all.
What's your thoughts on this, Johnny?
Similar to Kyle, I think for me, you've got to look at the I was going to say the bigger picture because someone's died, but that's the problem. That killing has nothing to do with Newcastle United Football Club. It doesn't have anything to do with us. So I think she's barking up the wrong tree. I think if she really feels this strongly, go to somebody that can potentially do an investigation on these people. Then Newcastle, as a club, as a community, as a city, can't do that. I think she's kind of saying, be careful what you wish for. That's what she's trying to indicate. Be careful what you wish for. If it's something so violent or vicious that could happen to Newcastle, then she's probably right in saying that if she believes that her husband was killed. Again, it's all allegations, and unless there was something proven, we can't really say anything then, just you get on with your life and we'll get on with ours, really.
It feels like that whatever happens, if this takeover does happen, it feels like we're always going to have blood money thrown at us. If we have a brand new superstar striker or a brand new training facility or whatever, it feels like we're going to get thrown back at us. Not so much by the authorities, you're probably talking to the fans, which we can take, but it's going to be consistent that, oh, you only got that because of that murder, or you only got that because of whippings and people imprisoned and people killed and all that. That's what we're going to get labelled as Newcastle fans, and we've got to be
politics out of football. That's it. There's a comment there. And now Lee's went quiet. His internet went off. Oh God!
We'll carry on.
There he is.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
So as I was saying, I don't know what happened there. We're always going to get this label to us. Do you feel that you're going to be brave and step up and try and keep politics out?
Politics needs to stay out of football. It's what I've been told from being a little Ben. Keep politics out of football. It doesn't belong into football. If anything, football's a release from the world when we go for the turnstiles and watch our team for 90 minutes. Politics has nothing to do with football, so keep it out, please, as far as I'm concerned.
Now, an unknown journalist, and I don't know much about him, I'm sure you lads don't. We had a brief chat about this in the group chat. Paul Smith says that the takeover is very, very close. We see this again. It's quite similar to human rights. There's always one journalist saying it's close, and then it's close again. What do you read into this making today, Paul Smith on Twitter?
I think for me personally, someone's going to say something like this because it is very, very close. I would say it's 98% close because there's two things left that this needs for this takeover to happen. So he's not wrong in what he's saying. There's a little bit more evidence that suggests he might know a little bit more because he was involved in the Leicester and the West Ham takeovers from the last few years. So there's a little bit more to it. But again, if I was to come out and say this takeover is very, very close to happening, I don't think I'd be wrong in saying that. But let's just, again, like Kyle says, like you've mentioned, Lee, in previous shows, let's just wait until it's completely done. The I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed, and then we can celebrate. But I'm not really concerned. I'd rather until either the Premier League or Newcastle or the buyers or Mike Ashley make a statement. They're one of the four parties. If they were to make a statement, then we can kind of go, do you know what? We're there or we're not there.
Yeah.
And please, again, we're going to read the WhatsApp out in about 5 minutes as we start to wrap up this section. You can see it on screen there. It's 07476497166. Coming up in section 2, obviously, Kyle will be taking over and I'll be dropping out. But I wanted to end this on a bit of a funny note, to be honest with you. John Joe Shelby, if you can bring that up, Sam. John Joe Shelby, he had a YouTube interview and he didn't really know what. Not of us, not one of them. Sadly, it's not one of the footballers that we got. But claims, Johnny, he keeps saying this hashtag cans everywhere and he's got no idea what it's about.
It's a load of rubbish. Every player at Newcastle, or every British player at Newcastle will know what that term means because it doesn't take a genius to work out what it means. I think, obviously, we know for a fact that the PR team at Newcastle will say, if there's anything mentioned about the takeover, if there's anything mentioned about this hashtag cans, just say, I'm not too sure what it means. I'm guessing it probably means something about a potential takeover, but until you hear something, I can't really say anything. So that's all it is. I'm not like I say, John Joe Shelby, if you got him in a private room and he wasn't off the record, I'm sure he would say, yeah, I know exactly what it means. But it is one of those things.
Kyle, what do you think on that?
I think he's got a room stored in his house filled with fridges and cans. I don't know what his choice would be for when or if this takeover does go through, but I think he's already got them stockpiled and ready to go.
He's a red stripe man, isn't he? Surely.
Let's have a look before we wrap up what you're saying in the WhatsApp. Apologies if your number is shown on screen. We can't control that. 7 weeks was confirmed by corporate lawyers last night on YouTube. That was for the Manchester City earlier on question that we had. This is from Jonathan. Oliver Dowden, the Secretary of State for Digital Culture, Media and Sport, has always said the government will not intervene with the Premier League decision. We just need to be patient. Again, you lads have said that. How will a fan base bounce back if this takeover falls through? Be the last straw for a lot of fans, in my opinion. Kyle, what if it didn't go through?
It'd be carnage, mate. I know we've spoke about how good of a feel it would be on Tyneside if it went through, and for every Newcastle fan around the world, how good it would be if it went through. But if it falls through, my God, the toxicity among the fan base and the frustration would be through the roof. It would just be as good as a takeover would be. It would be as bad if one didn't go through. There's no in between on this one. It's either it's going to be all positive or all negative. And honestly, I can see more protests going through. I can see more people giving up the season tickets and things like that. And we're going through all that windmill again of boycott Arsenal. But it might be more effective on this time around because we've obviously been sold the world all night. And if it falls through, we don't get it. Do you know what I mean? So if it falls through, I can only see the worst, to be honest.
Let's hope it does. And I'll answer the next one from Stephen. Do you think the coronavirus is holding a takeover going through? I think it is slightly, but not drastic. Obviously, we know a lot of people are now starting going back to work. Well, I say a lot, and not everybody is, but a lot of them will be working from home, doing the checks. So I think there's a slight hold up, but I don't think it's the case for the delay in it. Unknown, we've got a few here. If Newcastle can't have the takeover, then surely we've got to look at Sheffield United, because they're owned by a Saudi owner as well. Basically, Manchester City are owned politically the opponents of the Saudi governments, etc., throwing a spanner into the works, BN Sport Group, etc. Sounds like a jealous club. Don't forget, Lee, we never asked for this. Simply, we want both of the actually regime. And another unknown has came through. Problem is, he was killed, but do we know the real truth why? No, we don't. And the last one of this section from Jay. Jay apologising, number has shown nothing we can do about that. I think she can come barking here because simply improving so far. I think that she's referring to the widow. Would be different if we accepted someone who's been convicted. Interesting on that as well. So this is the final wrap up of this section. Hope you have enjoyed that. Coming up in section 2, there's me and Kyle are dropping out this one, I believe. Johnny is staying in, and we've got Sam and Owen coming up. Listen to some lovely music, and we'll be back with you very shortly.
Keeping high up off the ground, in a haze, in the crowd, we ain't ever coming down, we ain't ever coming down, like islands in the sky, living in a paradise. Bottles never running dry. We could stay here, you and I. Like islands in the sky. Living in a paradise. Bottles never running dry. We could stay here, you and I.
Hello everyone, we are back to Nova Radio 102.5 FM. I'm going to hand over to Johnny, who's taken over this section, and he's going to be joined by Owen and Sam.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to part 2 of the Black and White Show here on Nova Radio Northeast 102.5 FM. I've got Sam to the left of me, Owen to the right, and here I am, Johnny Greenwood, is with you. If anybody knows that song, I don't know. This is all about a controversy, to say the least. Danny Rose is very outspoken about a lot of things, particular the Project Restart and how Newcastle United and other Premier League football clubs are getting rushed. It's a bit of a panic mode being sent in. Obviously, there's a lot of, I'll say, strong language, which we're not going to obviously put on because it's going on radio. But we do have a short clip which we'll put on now.
The government saying, bring football back because it's going to boost the nation's morale. I don't give a fuck about the nation's morale, bro. Like, people's lives are at risk, so it's just, do you know what I mean? Like, football shouldn't even be spoke about, like, coming back until the numbers have dropped, like, massively. Is bro. So we'll see, but yeah, I'm supposed to go back to, I think I'm getting tested on Friday.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to wait and see.
So, Sam, we've heard what Danny Rose has had to say. The first thing I would like to say is that all the players were meant to be back and would be tested. What do you make of the fact that Premier League footballers are getting tested? It looks like they're going to be tested rigorously.
Yeah, and so they should be if the Premier League and the government want football to return. It's absolutely right they all get tested. They were due to get tested today. Hopefully all goes well and everyone's fine and all is well. But he's got a point, hasn't he? Let's face it. It's a thorny one. From a personal, selfish point of view, I think we all want football back on our screens because it'll make lockdown seem a hell of a lot more entertaining than what it is at the moment. But he's right. He's right. What gives us the right to, want footballers to put themselves at risk? So you can't really argue with him.
Owen, welcome to the show. Similar to the same question as Sam, should Premier League players be getting more of a priority on coronavirus testing than just, say, the local man, woman, or child on the street, because just 384 people have died today. Yes, the numbers are going down, but Danny Rose has a point, surely, that we're not here to keep us all entertained, because our lives could be at risk, our family lives could be at risk.
Yeah, I do agree with what he's saying to some extent. Like Sam said, he has got a point. But my point to Danny Rose would be, what about all those key workers right now that are still going to work, still having to do their job, and it's still interacting with people, coming home to their families and putting them at risk still? What is different between you and them? Yes, okay, social distancing can't be in place in a football match, because that would just be stupid. Imagine the amount of goals that would go in from corners, etc. But I think especially because I personally think the season needs to be completed. I think we were talking about last week as well. Yes, the situation I think needs to develop a little bit more, and things need to calm down a little bit more. But my point still stands that there are key workers that are still doing their job, still going outdoors and coming home to their families. So what's the difference?
It is. It's obviously interesting, to say the least. But Sam, does Danny Rose have a point again, in the sense that we're just Premier League players? We can't be rocket scientists and get a vaccine and get rid of coronavirus, etc. Like, we've heard things such as can't slide tackle. You've got to turn your face away. I think you can't spit, which I know is not a nice thing to hear, but these things generally happen on a football pitch. Are some of the things that are getting mentioned not ridiculous?
It's not unridiculous, but the thing is, this weekend's going to be massive, because obviously the Bundesliga returns. So, as I said last week on the show, it's the litmus test to see just how football can integrate itself back into society, if you like, after everything that's going on in the world. I don't know. I mean, the players are due back in for training on Monday, and there's quite a lot of players, not just from Newcastle, but from wherever. Obviously, Troy Deeney's spoken out, Aguero's spoken out. I think Glenn Murray was on Sky today or yesterday speaking out. And you mentioned there again, you can't slide tackle, you can't do this, you can't do that. I don't really see how it's going to work, really. How like Owen said, how are you meant to practice corners without wearing masks? And it is a strange one. But obviously, there's talk now of the league not resuming, I think, till the 13th of June, which was the date. So that gives it another month to kind of subside, and obviously the numbers are slowly decreasing. But as I said, the German league this weekend is going to be huge, because if that all goes well, then great, that'll give people some encouragement and some confidence behind it. If in a couple of weeks we hear players testing positive for COVID, then it could set us back weeks and months.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to make, because the Bundesliga starts this weekend, or the resumption of the Bundesliga starts. You don't want to hear too many COVID cases, or you want to hear that everything's above and beyond okay, and that's the big thing. And remember, you can't actually WhatsApp us. Do you think the Bundesliga will work this weekend, or do you think that maybe it's just a bit too soon for the around the world? The numbers on the screen, it's 074 764 97166. Danny Rose is another Tottenham player that's been in the headlines. Owen Dele Alli being held at knife point by muggers, which again is absolutely disgraceful, has to be said. Do you think the likes of Dele Alli and the likes maybe of Jan Vertonghen in recent past as well, who have had situations with the public, do you think maybe now they need to, I don't know, it's difficult, because you obviously don't want to see incidents like this, but how can society move on when certain things are happening like the Dele Alli situation?
Well, first of all, that's a really good question, because I'm not quite sure I'm going to answer it, but I'm going to give it a go. First of all, it's really, really, really devastating to see things like this happening. You know, I'm not too keen on Dele Alli as a person, but no one deserves to be held at knife point. No one, like, it's not something you hear every day. No one deserves that. No one, and I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. But it is difficult because they're obviously very easily targeted, footballers, because of the amount of money they earn, and therefore they must have some very valuable assets within their houses. And once someone knows where they live, well, they're going to take liberties, aren't they? I think it's difficult to move on from. Must be difficult for footballers to move on from, because to be held at knife point, that's got to be a scarring thing to have in your mind. It's going to be there for quite a long time, if not for the rest of your life. Must be fearful of living in your own house, and for people outside of football as well. You know, these people that do it, it's never going to stop happening because the amount of money footballers are paid. I hate to bring it down to that, because it makes it sound like, you know, it's the footballers' fault for being paid that much money. But unfortunately, it's just one of those things that happens. It's humans have greed installed in them, and certain human beings decide to take that greed to the next level.
Yeah, it's absolutely shocking, and you're quite right, Owen. You know, no one deserves to be that sort of thing, you know, to be thrown at them, really. Sam, are the Premier League rushing things at the minute? Because it seems like you've mentioned June 12th, June 13th. I've read an article just in the last hour that June the 12th to June the 19th are the muted dates, that they want to restart football with a Friday night game and a Monday night game, and also a Saturday lunchtime game with another broadcaster. So it seems like the broadcasters are being told, you know what, just put your pencil down for that particular date, because I think that's where we're going to restart the season, because UEFA are putting pressure on every league to have some sort of idea of how you're going to restart or finish your season by the 25th of May.
Yeah, money talks. There's so much money involved with the Premier League, with broadcasters. Maybe they are rushing things, but I tell you what, other sports are rushing it more. Horse racing in particular, which I've got quite a bit of experience on.
How many horses do you have again?
As it goes, Newcastle. I wish. I've been in the owners and trainers arena a couple of times with a horse in particular.
Oh, very nice.
That's a separate issue. But yeah, I mean, horse racing. I mean, Newcastle Racecourse is going to be hosting the first UK fixture back on the 1st of June. So they're getting going as soon as possible. It's already happened in France already. Yes, the Premier League maybe are rushing it a bit, but I suppose that's why the Bundesliga is a bit of a benefit, because they can kind of see how things go over there first. No, I don't own 4 horses. I wish I did. And
it's 5.
Whilst we're on the line, yeah, it's 5. Yeah. No. Yeah. No, the horse I was actually in the owners and trainers with was a horse called Lunajet, who was in training with John Mackey, which won a race at Goodwood a couple of years ago. So that was good fun. But hey ho, since you asked.
Sorry.
But yeah, it's all about money. It's all about money. Hopefully it all goes smoothly over in Germany, and everyone can just stay safe and healthy, and because there are so much more important things going on at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I think as well, you need to stay alert as well. That's the message that we need to send out. Stay alert. Owen. Yeah. Troy Deeney's been vocal about how.
When isn't he?
Exactly, about Project Restart, but so is Glenn Murray. And Glenn Murray is basically saying that players are split evenness in Brighton about the player safety and whether or not it's actually a good idea to start at any point in the next 4 weeks. Do you believe that Glenn Murray is right to be like this, or do you think he's thinking from a footballing point of view that Brighton just sit a couple of points above the likes of West Ham, Bournemouth, your club, and what else? Watford.
I think, you know, these players are raising good points. Glenn Murray, especially. You look at the teams in the relegation zone; they don't want to come back to football because they don't want to be relegated, and it will be different because stadiums won't have fans in, and I think fans, as I've said on record before, fans are an important part of football. and it's almost like having an extra player on the pitch at sometimes. I think some of it is down to safety. There are fears over their safety. However, I think, from my personal opinion, and if a Premier League player is listening to this, which I highly doubt, but if they are listening to this and they want to prove me wrong, in my opinion, I think that they should just get back to it. Unless, and this is the only problem I have with it, is if a player tests positive for coronavirus and therefore can't play, I think that gives then a disadvantage to that team. If you look at Newcastle, for example, say, I don't know, ASM got injured for Newcastle, we would be in uproar if we were then still encouraged to play, because I don't think having coronavirus is quite the same of having a hamstring injury, if you like. It's not an injury. It's it's something very serious. So,
but surely, and that just comes back to the argument that it's too early. Surely it's too early. There's still nearly 400 people dying.
Yeah, well, I think it is too early. Definitely over here. I mean, I saw on the news just this evening that where they've sort of relaxed the rules, allowing you to see one person at a time, 2 meters apart, though. That the numbers have started rising a little bit again, not by much, but it's starting to creep back up towards that one that we need to stay under. But to come back to your question, I think, it is too early, but I think the Premier League does need to return. I think Sam's right, money does talk, but in this case, there is you never want money to go to waste, and if the season is not completed, then money will be wasted.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's a good answer as well, because obviously Sergio Aguero is another player, Sam, who's concerned for just his family. And you look at Manchester City, are probably battling to finish second, potentially. I think they're going to be in the top four, not a problem. But it is still concerning, to say the least. Get your WhatsApp in as well, because we're going to be reading a few out in the next couple of minutes. I'll let Lee get ready, and I'll tell him to do a little bit more work, because he doesn't do enough, does he, Sam?
Anymore.
Yeah. Now let's talk about one more point before we go on to the WhatsApps, and that is player contracts. Obviously, they've announced that there is a slight extension from the 30th of June to whenever the season will end. 3 players in particular: Matty Longstaff, Andy Carroll, and Javier Manquillo. 3 players that we're going to talk about. I'll let you start with Andy Carroll, because I think we could all agree probably on Matty Longstaff. So we'll leave that one a little bit later. But Andy Carroll, say, for example, Sam, in a hypothetical world, the season finishes, say, I don't know, at the end of July, maybe the first week of August. If Andy Carroll can remain injury-free in the time of the last 9 games or so, do you feel that he can be given another year under new ownership as well, potentially?
Yeah, you can never guarantee his fitness, though. That's the problem, and it always has been with Andy Carroll. He's a real handful when he's fully fit. He's a proper striker, a proper striker. The problem is now, at this stage of his career, I can't really imagine him playing anywhere else. He's obviously come home back to Newcastle.
Is he good enough, Sam?
If he's fit, yes. 100%. He's good enough. I would probably give him another year with the same conditions that he's on now. I wouldn't be going into a season, with him being first choice striker and we need him to stay fit for 30 games a season, because that ain't going to happen.
Oh, and just to put it on the other side of the argument, I suppose, Andy Carroll hasn't scored for Newcastle since he's come back from obviously leaving West Ham last year. Yes, he's had a couple of assists, but surely you want strikers to score goals. Is that enough for him to get another contract?
I think for the amount of games he's played, I mean, part of that is down to injury, and part of that is because Joe Linton has been unfairly keeping him out of the team at some points, I think. But I think he's been impactful this season when he's come on. Whenever he's come on, he's either got back with that back 3 that we used to have and defended his heart out. I think of the Manchester United game when they were whipping balls into the box. He was there all the time, heading them away. Or he gets up the pitch and he, does the knockdowns, and you think of Almiron's first goal. I know he wasn't credited for the assist for that, but if without Andy Carroll in the box there, Miggy wouldn't have got his first goal. So I think he's had a massive impact this season, and yet again, he's another voice in the changing room. From what I've seen and heard, he sounds like he's quite a big figure in the changing room, and not just because of his height, obviously. Along with Lascelles and Richie and the likes of, he sounds like he's got quite a big voice. So yeah, I'd give him another extension, and hopefully in that extension he would then be able to go on and do his coaching badges, because I'd love to see him return as a coach, because maybe if he cannot carry on playing football and scoring goals, he could become maybe a striking coach and show his trade to the younger generation.
Yeah, for sure. If Lee's got the WhatsApp ready, that'd be great. If he just got a couple of seconds to there we go. It's just like magic here. Let's have a little look from Jay. Jay, I don't think she can come back in here because simply unproven so far. Would be different if we accepted in someone who's convicted. I think that's going back to what Kyle said and Lee said in part one alongside me regarding to the allegations of the murdered journalist. It's a valid point, but we have touched on it on part one. If you think about it, boys, 13 years later with the Ashley nightmare, we would have probably taken the devil's daughter as long as you get rid of Ashley. Again, Sam, I think that's probably a question in itself. Are Newcastle fans just wanting anyone at the minute, as long as they've got enough money to compete in the Premier League, as long as it's not Mike Ashley?
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's also the thing that people from the outside looking in don't seem to appreciate. The whole hashtag cams and the whole takeover celebrations, it's got nothing to do with who's the incoming owners are. Nothing. It's obviously nice, but it's all about Mike Ashley leaving. And to be fair to the Premier League, with how it's taking so long, I kind of take some comfort in it taking so long, because you want it to be thorough. Obviously, you hear about what these owners are going to bring, but remember the Venkis at Blackburn? When they first came in, they were on about running Ronaldinho, and look where Blackburn are now. So I know we heard that it was meant to happen this week, and we're all sick to death of it. It's now come to the point where it's almost going to be a relief rather than a celebration when it happens. But it's just about getting rid of Ashley. Let's face it.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, and there's two messages that I can see on the WhatsApp. Quite different. The first one is saying all it takes is one player getting it, and the whole team is. I'm going to be nice and say knackered rather than what he's trying to say. And then another one says football might save our sanity. What camp are you on? Are you in the camp of, look, I just want football back, Premier League, Championship, League One, because we'll talk about League Two very shortly, how League Two's finished. But or you're on the camp of all it takes is, say, NASM getting it, and we're back to square one?
This wasn't an option, but it has to be both, because you have to be level-headed in this situation. Look, we're in a global pandemic. You can't. It's not one of those things where you can just go, "Oh yeah, I want football back." I don't care whether the players get it, but I want football back. I want to be able to watch that on my TV every weekend. You have to look at it from the players' perspective as well, and look at not just them going back to their families, but the changing room as well. Because like that message correctly says, one player gets it, then the whole team has to quarantine and cannot play a game again. And then what you get, that football's just going to drag and drag and drag and drag. So it comes back to the point I was making earlier. Football needs in the Premier League in England needs to hold off and come back at a later date. I think the dates they're discussing at the moment are just a little bit too early. But like I say, things could change between now and then. So if the numbers are right from the date, are right around the date they're talking about, why not give it a go? But it needs to be the right situation.
For sure, and there's a couple of unknowns saying hard to argue with Danny Rose. Let's look at Germany, but they love the content, and we all love Newcastle fans too. We all love the content, don't we, Sam? But another unknown saying too early for football as well. Again, a lot of people are agreeing with Danny Rose. Is there a particular reason why you wouldn't agree with Danny Rose, Sam?
Only if you're really selfish and you think, I want football back now. Like, come on, entertain me, I'm bored kind of thing. There's no real logical argument against what he's saying, to be honest. I have. It's a tricky one because we're in such uncharted waters. Because something like this will never happen again, hopefully. But if I was in his shoes, I'd be the exact same. Family comes first. So obviously, you may or may not know I had a kind of minor COVID scare with my wife. Thankfully, that all came back negative, and it was just an infection, and she's fully recovered and whatnot. So, but on a side note, thank you for everyone's well wishes about the Richie video that went out yesterday as well. It really is appreciated. But with Danny Rose, I support what he says, whether you like him or not. So, very good, Jason. Yes. I'm sure he does.
Yeah, for sure. Jackie Nicholson, I just saw one of the comments come across the screen saying no news is good news, and that's probably the biggest thing we can take from this. Last couple of points before we'll go on to a break. Javier Manquillo, Owen, do you think that he deserves another contract? Because I have to be honest, if we get new ownership, he's a player that's very hot and cold for me. I know a lot of fans think he's the best right back, and I probably would agree that to an extent. He is probably the best right back of the club. But I think we can do so much better. Where do you see Javier Manquillo's future at the minute?
Bold statement, but I would renew Manquillo's contract. If there is a new right back that's brought in, once this takeover goes through, Manquillo then becomes second choice, and you sell Yedlin. That's what I'd do, because you're getting the money from selling Yedlin, and it won't cost that much. It won't cost as much to renew Manquillo's contract. So you sell Yedlin. With part of the money you sell Yedlin for, you renew Manquillo's contract, and you're buying a new first-team right back. Because currently, I think Manquillo is the best of the club, and the performance he's put in, he deserves a new contract. I think he's definitely shut a lot of fans up. I think from when he first signed.
Sam, it looks like you're disagreeing with all those faces there. That you're kind of saying that maybe that's not correct. That Owen is saying. Do you agree with what Mr. Shepherd is saying?
No, yes and no. I don't want to kick the boot into young Owen, but I think it's obviously a real problem area of the field for us, along with strikers. But I think just for us to really progress, we need to kind of get rid of at least two of them. Manquillo's not done anything wrong really this year, but is he really up to scratch for a team that wants to start chasing the top half of the table? I'm not so sure. Don't get me wrong. He's done so much better than I think we all thought he would. But I'd like to see us sign someone new and proper and better.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing, saying, can we get better right back? And Yedlin's been rumoured to leaving as well. It was all over ESPN that the American international would like a different challenge. It's just the wages that might be a bit of a stumbling block for some clubs. Matty Longstaff, any 29 lad, I know Kyle will be watching or listening or on the comments, but yeah, Matty Longstaff, it's a given. We've talked about this before, so I don't really want to talk about that too much. I think the final point is League Two stopped. And I think for me, gents, it's just creeping in a little bit. We've had all the National League, likes of Gateshead, South Shields. It's just crept into obviously the likes of Hartlepool now, and now it's come to League Two where they've decided enough's enough. We need the money. Oh, are the postcodes available? Yes, they are. Look, League Two have kind of gone, give the top three the promotion. We'll do the playoffs when it's safe to do so, and Stevenage can stay in the division. Owen, do you think it's the right decision that League Two have done it the way they have? Or do you think they should have waited a little bit more longer? Or, as we've all said, is it just about they need money, sooner the better?
I think, yeah, and they need money, sooner the better. And the thing is with League Two as well, there's not that much money coming from the TV deals. Not compared to the Premier League. It's pennies, peanuts. So I think for League Two, it's okay for them to do that, and that everything will naturally correct itself in the end with the promotions and no relegations. But we come back to the point in the Premier League. There's way more money in the Premier League, way more money to lose in the Premier League. And I think to compare the two situations doesn't really align. Yes, they're both football divisions, but there is finer details that come into play that mean there's big differences.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, Sam, just to a similar question, really. unless you're Salford City, Bradford City, Plymouth Argyle, probably. I'm not saying Salford are a big club, but they've got a bit of finance behind them. Do you think clubs just looked at a long-term picture and went, you know what, let's take a little hit, start again in August, and let's try and get into League Two or try and stay in the division, etc.? Or do you think clubs will be a bit disappointed that they can't finish the season?
Well, they put it to a vote, didn't they? And it was pretty unanimous, hence why we got the result we had today. So I think I read on BBC that they're going to do it the kind of Duckworth-Lewis equivalent, the points per game scenario. And I think they were going to still plan to hold the playoffs. So it's a bit concerning because it's creeping up the divisions now, as you say. But I mean, for mighty Crewe Alexandra, who are sat top of League Two at the moment, it's great for them because they don't have the chance to bottle it. But I think I've always said from the start that, and I'm going to use the example of the Premier League, if you're going to award Liverpool the title, if we get to that stage, which would absolutely be the right thing to do if that's the conclusion we have to come to, you need relegation as well. I'm so against this idea of a 22-team league next season or no relegation, but you need relegation. The only way I think I would be kind of for the argument of no relegation is if we were down there, but we're not. So I can be honest and say you've got to kind of sort these leagues out properly. And to be honest, there's no real rush, is there, to get these leagues done? Really?
I'll tell you what, there is the rush. There's a rush for part 3 because Kyle wants to get back in. So this is what I love you and leave you, gents. Keep on the WhatsApps, keep on the comments. It's 074 764 971 66. Yeah, Kyle will be here at part 3. I think he's got a few quiz games, and I think Sam and Owen are still going to be here. So comment below if you wanted me, that'd be great because I could do with a little bit of good news, but in this coronavirus football hit. But if you want to listen to Kyle, to Sam, and to Owen, stick with Nova Radio Northeast 102.5, and if you're watching on YouTube as well. We'll be right back after this short break.
Hey, you, I saw you from the distance. Hey, you, can we talk? Hey, you, I think you're my subsistence. Hey, you, or am I wrong? And now, I lose my bones. Like my love is out of my mind. And you, I'm not more than a
Kyle, if you just try and get it to...
And welcome to part 3 of the Black and White Show. I'm your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by Owen, and I'm joined by Sam. We're all wearing Newcastle tops. And in all the show, Johnny hasn't had one on, Lee hasn't one on, not repping the brand very well. But get your comments in which one's the best one. We're all wearing away tops. This one is from 2011, we're promotion season, back in the Premier League under Chris Hughton. Would you go with Sam's 1997, I believe, or 98, 97, isn't it? 96?
No, later than that, 98, 99, I think.
No, right, okay, 98, 99. Or Owen with the Lola away top, I like to call it, because Lee did it. I think he did a reveal of an away top on the channel, and it keeps popping up now and then with him revealing the top. Recommended. So which one would you go for, if people in the comments?
Mine definitely wouldn't be the winner for me. I think one of your two classics definitely would do it.
See, I'd go with Sam's, me. I wore that actually for the first charity match that we played against the Magpie channel, where we got where I'll not talk about the result, but we didn't play so well that day. But I wore that one, and there was a contentious penalty decision where the player that was marking completely dived. I didn't touch him at all, and he fell over, and the referee weirdly went to VAR before it was a thing. I mean, a charity match between two fan channels, and he went to VAR and went to look at the camera footage, and he decided it wasn't a penalty as well. So, I mean, if the referee thinks it's not a penalty, it's not. But in this part of the show, I thought I'd continue a trend of what I did last week with the NFTV head-to-heads, because I thought it did quite well last week, and Owen has a chance to get redemption after he got absolutely embarrassed last week by Lee in a 2-1 drubbing, and only picking up some pride towards the end. But I'm putting it in a best out of 5. So if you want to play along in the comments, you can do, because it is something I am looking to take forward on the radio show. So if you enjoy it, do let us know. But we're going to start with round 1. Are you ready, lads? I'll explain if you haven't seen already. But basically, each party has 30 seconds to decide. I set the question, but both parties have to pick an opposite argument and have 30 seconds to argue that point. And then at the end, the comments and myself will decide who wins the argument, basically. So, round 1. Are you ready, boys?
As you would say, Kyle.
Yeah, but Owen's had a week's practice on me. This is the first time I've done this. So Owen's obviously been practicing all week. This has just been sprung upon.
You've got years on me though, Sam. So that's your argument.
I've tried to make them recent, Owen, because you were obviously unborn when Sam was supporting Newcastle from the start. So I've went with the last 10 years. So trying to give you a bit of home field advantage after you got embarrassed last week. But we'll continue. Round 1. Who had the better season? Was it Barr in 2012 to 2013 season, or Solomon Rondon in 2018-2019? So Sam, I'll come to you first, as you're a new candidate, a new person for this part of the show. So whose season was better, would you say?
Bars by Denver
right,
Bars.
Okay, and then you'll have 30 seconds to argue that, and then Owen, you'll have to argue Rondon had a better season last season before you went to China. But I'll let you start first, Sam, and your 30 seconds starts now. Go.
Denver Bar was probably the best Newcastle striker we've had since Alan Shearer. That season, obviously, we signed him on a free from West Ham. We went on to finish 5th in the league. He had a reasonably slow start, but hat-tricks at Stoke, and it's just the way he terrorised Man United. I put that game up on Twitter first thing this morning, the 3-0. The way he terrorised Rio Ferdinand, my word, what a player. He can do it all. He's a complete striker. He's by far the better striker out of the two. The only thing is, I wish he'd have stayed longer.
And Owen, you have a chance. Your 30 seconds starts now. Go.
Much like Demba Ba, Solomon Rondon wasn't here very long. But I think many fans would agree that they wanted him to stay a lot longer. He was refreshing to see someone who could actually score goals in the Premier League. He enjoyed his best goal-scoring season in the Premier League under Rafa Benitez at Newcastle. And he quickly became a fan favourite after his brace against Bournemouth. If you can remember that game, he terrorised Nathan Ake, which Kyle likes bringing up quite a lot.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Nathan Ake or Rondon.
Anyway, back to Rondon. Rondon, it was delightful to see his partnership between him and Perez, the way he could hold the ball up, flick it on the lot. He was
There's
brilliant.
30 seconds on. It's over and done with. I don't know who
partnerships.
in the
Bar in
comments
season.
below. I don't know who you would go with, but personally, I would say Sam took round one. I would say Rondon myself, but I think Sam gave a better argument in that he scored a lot more goals despite the slow start. And as Hunter and UFC has said, love Rondon too. On this channel, I don't think there was a bigger fan than me, to be honest, with Solomon Rondon. But later on this part as well, after we've done with NFTV face-offs, we're doing a little bit of a Q&A towards the end as well. So if we want to get your comments in the live chat, if you want to get your comments in the WhatsApp, which I'm saving till the end as well, if you want to get involved, let me know with the number scrolling at the bottom. But if you're on Nova Radio Northeast, Sam, since you know it by heart, what is the number you can get in contact with on WhatsApp?
07476 497 166.
Saved by the number. Aye, but that is the number that you can use to get in contact with via WhatsApp. Definitely, I completely forgot. I'm not going to lie to you. But we'll go into round two, and Owen, I'll give you first dibs on this one. But who was the worst centre back for Newcastle United? Was it Grant Hanley or Mike Williamson? Owen, I'll let you decide who was the worst one for your argument.
I think I'm going to go with Mike Williamson as the worst.
Okay, fair enough. And then Sam will be with Grant Hanley. So, Owen, I'll let you start with Mike Williamson, arguing why he was a worse defender for Newcastle United. And your 30 seconds starts now. Go.
Now, I'm not going to go on why Mike Williamson was the worst defender. I'm saying why Grant Hanley was better. If you look back at that championship season, he filled in when he was needed, and he always did a job. I think there was a few mistakes here and there, a few iffy moments, but he always, most of the time, did his job in that championship season. And I think he was sort of an underrated player when there was injuries at the back and whatnot. He did what he was supposed to do. Mike Williamson, not exactly regarded in a nice way by Newcastle fans in terms of his performances on the pitch. So that's why I'm going with him as the worst defender out of the two.
Okay, and Sam, Owens went for a bit of reverse psychology to try and win this argument, but you've got your 30 seconds and it starts now.
I'll beat him at reverse psychology as well then. Mike Williamson filled in when needed in a 5th place finish in the Premier League. Grant Hanley filled in for a season in the Championship. What was the point of Grant Hanley, really? Okay, he filled in every now and again. It was just a waste of time. Anyone could have done that job. You could have put Jesus Gamez there. Who cares? Mike Williamson was solid. At times, both players, you wouldn't want them in your team every week, but when required, given the choice, Mike Williamson every day of the week.
Well, I don't know about using the comments, but I think Owens came back roaring in round two. I thought his reverse psychology to argue for Grant Hanley being a better player instead of Mike Williamson being worse is actually quite a smart thing from Owen. So I'll give round two to Owen, and it levels it up at 1 apiece. So we'll go into round three, which is it's going to be it's quite an interesting one. This I thought when I was thinking it up in terms of who had the better managerial stint at Newcastle United. Was it Alan Pardew or was it Glenn Roeder? So Sam, since you lost the last round, I'll let you pick who had the better managerial stint at NUFC. Was it Alan Pardew or was it Glenn Roeder?
Pardiola.
Oh. I think this is more tactical because I don't know if Owen knows very much about Glenn Roeder. But Sam, I'll let you argue the case for the Adu Den Haag former manager, as he got sacked a couple of weeks ago. But your 30 seconds for Alan Pardew being a better manager than Joe Kinnear said, then Roeder starts now. Go.
He's a better manager than Joe Kinnear too. Pardew, it again comes down to that 5th place finish. That it's the only good season we've had in the Mike Ashley era. The only thing that's kind of negative that isn't Pardew's fault was that we didn't kick on, we didn't invest, we didn't progress to have a 2-pronged attack for a Premier League and a Europa League campaign. Pardew managed some great players, put that front three up of Ben Arthur, Barr and Cisse. That West Brom away game springs to mind in the orange kit. Roda, I spoke to Craig Moore about Roda the other day. He said it was down to the players and not the manager. So there you go, inside info.
And Owen, you have 30 seconds to argue the case for Glenn Roda. Your time starts now. Go.
Now, I don't think there's any defending Glenn Roda, so I'm kind of lost from the start here. But I'm going to use reverse psychology again. So Alan Pardew, yes, he provided a 5th place finish, which everyone seems to go on about. It was a good season, one of my favourite seasons in my time supporting the club. However, seasons other than that season were absolutely abysmal from what I can remember, and the negativity around the stadium was very high. And to be honest, I wasn't too impressed by his football. Even in that season, we finished 5th place. I thought, the players we had sort of made his job easy for him. You think of Cabai, Ben Arthur, Cisse, those players that they put in a shift and they were good on the ball. They did the job for him in a way. I don't think Pardew is actually very, tactically minded. Neither do I think Glenn Roda, but I think Pardew.
And that's your 30 seconds, Owen. You haven't really argued for Glenn Roda. You've more argued why Alan Pardew is a worse manager.
You cannot defend Glenn Roda, man.
I honestly thought Sam would have picked Glenn Roda after the Craig Moore interview, so I was very surprised in that one. But in the comments, there's actually Dylan Hellier who said he preferred the dog over Roda or Alan Pardew. And to be honest, I don't think he's far wrong. But in terms of a round, I'm going to have to give that to Sam. Actually, I think Sam, with more round knowledge about Alan Pardew, gives him that round. But obviously, we're going to round 4 now, and you have a chance to take the round 5 tiebreaker before, obviously, we'll go into the questions and whatnot. But round 4, I'm just scrolling through my notes. Who was more underrated at Newcastle United? Was it Danny Guthrie or was it Joey Barton? Now, Owen has your 2-1 down, like last week. I'll let you pick who was the more underrated Newcastle player out of the two.
I'm going to go with Joey Barton, and there's a very good reason why.
Okay, fair enough.
Good.
You can save that for your 30 seconds, and Sam will go with Danny Guthrie. Well, Owen, I'll let you go first, mate. Your 30 seconds will start now. Go.
You look at Joey Barton as a Premier League player, not just at Newcastle, but you think of the likes of QPR, even his time at Manchester City, which wasn't some of his most glorious days, but he has always been an underrated player. And in my opinion, he deserved to have a few England call-ups, I think, and deserved to be in that squad a few times, because you look at his time at QPR, he was probably one of the best players in that squad. And at Newcastle, one of the biggest voices in the dressing room. You think of that 4-4 against Arsenal, one of the loudest voices on that pitch that day, along with Kevin Nolan, I understand, but one of the loudest voices on that pitch, and not just for what he could do with the ball, free kicks, scoring from outside the box, but the type of player he was in the dressing room as well is why.
Right, that's your 30 seconds, mate, and on to Sam, who's going to argue for Danny Guthrie. Go.
Danny Guthrie, Shropshire born and bred like myself. Signed by Kevin Keegan. And again, in that season we finished 5th. How many times did he fill in and do a job? He's got a cracking right foot on him as well. And he scored a great goal against Fulham, I seem to recall. He's just a solid, underrated player, either in the centre of that midfield or on the right-hand side. And to be fair, it's all very well saying about Joey Barton. The fact is he's going to be suspended for half the season. So Guthrie's more reliable in every sense of the word.
It's a good argument, but Owen, if you had said Danny Guthrie couldn't beat the first man for corner cross, you would have won the round. But I'm going to give it to Sam on that one, which puts him 3-1 up and gives him the tie, basically, going into round 5. But obviously we've got round 5 still to go, but for me, it is actually really close. Who's the more underrated? I didn't really rate Danny Guthrie when he was at Newcastle. I thought his crossing ability was the worst I've ever seen it. I wish it was like the one in the photo down in the comment there. I wish he was a bit like Cesc Fabregas. But for me, his free kick ability was awful. Yeah, he scored a couple of screamers and that, but I just didn't think he was ever capable of being able to be that consistent main man for Newcastle. He was always outshone by better players in that squad. But I suppose he did what he needed to do, didn't he? But Joey Barton, although he couldn't stay on the field, was probably the better of the two. But on arguments alone, I'll give that to Sam. The 5th and final round, playing for Pride. Who is better, Jamal Lascelles or Fabian Schär. Sam, I'll let you pick as you've won the tie already out of the two.
I'm going to go for Jamal.
Jamal Lascelles, right, okay. And Owen, you have the elegant man, that as
Yes.
Lee would like to call him, Fabian
He is
Schär.
the
So,
Chisel.
Sam, I'll let you go first, mate. Your 30 seconds start now. Go.
It is a close one, this is, but battle of the centre-backs, and who's the more solid defender? Jamal Lascelles. Leadership. Solidity. He's just an absolute man mountain. The guy loves being captain of our football club. You'd follow him into battle every day of the week. Yes, Schär is good, don't get me wrong, but Jamal is the first name on the team sheet in that defence. He brings so much more to the table than Schär, who can't, for me, really play in a two-man centre-back pairing.
And that's your 30 seconds. Owen, make a case for Fabian Schär.
Fabian Schär, one of the biggest fan favourites at Newcastle. I've been delighted since he's come in. I think he's given us some really, really, really good moments. You think of his goal against Burnley, Cardiff. I know his goal against Fulham on the last day of the season wasn't the best out of his great bunch, but still another great moment in a thrashing of a team. He can bring the ball out from the back. He can switch diagonal balls, which is something that Lascelles does. Both those things, carry the ball out from the back and switch diagonals, is something that Lascelles does struggle to do. I think
30 seconds on. Sorry, mate. Your time's up. But get your comments in who was the better of the two, because it is an intriguing argument. And you could say a lot further. Lee's already
Lee's back on control.
But Lee seems to think Fabian Schär was the winner on that one. I disagree, to be honest. I thought Sam ran away with a 4-1 win, but I'll leave it to the comments since me and Lee disagree.
Agree with you.
There's a couple that say Schär. You know what it is? You've already won, Sam. We'll give it to Owen.
I went easy on doing that time. I didn't want to humiliate him like I did in the quiz.
He takes a consolidation point like you did last week. But Sam, you've won this week's NFTV head-to-head. And if you do like this, let us know in the comments below if you're watching it later on and not live. Do let us know if you enjoy them, because I enjoy putting them together. So Sam, you've won. Lee won last week. Is there anybody on the channel for NFTV head-to-heads you'd like to call out for next week?
Yeah, anyone that wants to lose to me.
I think Rob, having obviously I faced Rob in the quiz final, so it's all about the rematch.
So the rematch, you beat him in the quiz because Rob was the favourite. He was revising for it and everything, Rob, and then he gets shown up in the final with a wrong answer. No, he got an answer wrong, and then you headed in from close range to win the tie. So. Rob, you've been called out, lad. Next week on NFTV head-to-heads, you'll be taking on Sam if you're up to the task. If not, Owen can come in for a rematch or whatever. But that's if you enjoy it, that is. But let's go to the live chat for 5 minutes before we go up into the WhatsApp. So Lee, I know you've got your controls on to put the WhatsApp up in a minute's time. But let us have a look through the comments. Head-to-heads, brilliant idea. I like that from Jonathan Young. Cheers, mate. It's something I've completely stolen, to be honest. A couple of years ago, Lawrence and True Geordie did a head-to-head on the Football Republic, I believe. I've just kind of taken it and wanted to Newcastleize it a little bit because I thought it was an idea that was really good and they didn't really run with it, and then they ended up leaving Football Republic and end up doing the podcast. So I suppose that started from there. But thanks, mate. It is a good idea, I think. Not the only one. Andrew NUFC has also said great idea as well. But with a Q&A in mind, I don't know if you've got any questions you just want to ask me, lads, but I've came up with a couple for you for later on in the show. But Lee, if you could get them WhatsApps on screen, and me, Sam, and Owen will go through them as soon as possible. Owen didn't do Shaw justice. Owen, what are your thoughts, mate? You haven't done Shaw justice, mate.
I mean, I tried my hardest, but I would have gone for Lascelles anyway. I'm sorry, but I would have.
Oh, wow.
I do think Lascelles is probably the better not the better player out of the two, but for what he can provide off the field, I think he is. So it was hard arguing for a player that I didn't agree with personally myself.
Well, we've got WhatsApps up in front, and if your number does pop up, I do apologise. But get your questions in if you want to ask any of us free any Q&A questions, football or non-football related, channel related, whatever you want to go with. If you want to ask them, let one know. But the first one is from Unknown. Hey, do you think the takeover is still going to be completed, because it seems to be hitting one stumbling block after another? Just with the bad publicity of human rights allegations, the Premier League might scrub the pressure and refuse the takeover. Also heard that Roma's owner has came out with a come and buy us plea. Not sure the substance of it. So Sam, what are your thoughts on this WhatsApp? Do you reckon it is going to be done? Is it just a case of patience, or like, are you worried, or like, what do you think?
I touched upon it slightly in the previous part. And I mean, I answer this every week now, and I know we're all sick to death of it. But yes, I do think it still will happen. It's just a case of patience, and the Premier League want to be seen like they're being as thorough as they can be for fear of criticism. And normally with takeovers, we only seem to know about them when they're done. For example, the ownership of Man City, didn't they just buy? Was it Lokeren, the Belgian team?
I'm not sure.
Someone like that. Yeah, exactly. It went so under the radar. They added another club to their repertoire. So again, these takeovers tend to just spring up, not like this one where it's being played out in public because we're all sat at home twiddling our thumbs wanting news to break. But yes, I do still think it'll happen. Just keep calm and keep them cans on ice.
You might have drank them all by then, mate, because I know you love a good fat chas, which is a question I was going to bring up later on, actually. But Owen, are you worried about this, and do you think it's not really a case of be patient?
I'm not worried at all, if I'm honest with you. I think the Premier League are an elite organisation. They know what they're doing. Okay, they know exactly what to do in these situations. And I think just to bring up the Roma thing quickly, just to shut that down. Someone's already shut that down. There's nothing to worry about. I think there's no solidarity to that rumor. So they're very much these new owners are very much still into buying Newcastle. So don't worry about that. I think it is just a matter of time with these Premier League checks because of the amount of negativity that's being thrown Newcastle's way and the Premier League's way to do with piracy and murders of journalists and all sorts. I think that's why it may be taking so long, also due to the situation as well. But I think if it's going to happen, I think. But again, if it doesn't happen, you just gotta sort of just keep calm and carry on. But yeah, I'm still pretty positive about it, I'd say.
I just want to say though, the amount of NA29 comments in the live chat, I'm genuinely blessed. NA29, big up, the one postcode on this channel. But you were going on about postcodes last week, Sam. Before I go into this next question from Unknown, but what's your postcode again? It's WL or something.
ST20.
There we go on that one.
No,
I should. Have I just offended someone there? But
ST20 mine. We've actually got the scope of the country covered between the three of us. You in the northeast,
I know.
Gungo on the south coast, and me in the middle in the Midlands.
We're borderline international on NFTV. We did have with Christopher, who used to be on the channel in Aussie, but he sadly left. But covering all grounds of the UK. Well done, lads. But on to this next question from Unknown. Did anyone watch the UFC? They did it under the coronavirus stuff, I suppose. I just make sure entering the stadium hasn't got the virus via testing. Then you can play as the UFC was found positive. They didn't let him enter the building. They're on about Jacare Souza with that one. At least footballers are getting tested and they know where they have it or not. First question, I did watch the UFC, actually. I really enjoyed it. That Francis Ngannou is an absolute machine. But I think the point he's trying to make is with coronavirus tests in place, could you just let people into the stadium? Me personally, I think it's far too early to do something like that. I think I would need at least a vaccine or a cure in place before that amount, but before 52,000 people can be in the same kind of space. Sam, I'll come to you on this, mate. What kind of do you agree with this message that we've been sent in? Do you think they could test people on the way into the ground, and if they're fine, let them in, or what do you think?
No, I can't see it as a realistic possibility. To be honest, I can't see us being allowed in stadiums anytime soon, which it kind of makes the takeover all the more frustrating. But that first day post Ashley, when St James's Park is going to be packed to the rafters, who knows when it'll be, but it's going to be so sweet. So sweet.
It is, because especially if we've got a new takeover, and I've posted it several times on the Facebook page, that first game back, man, I've been dreaming about it for years. Just the roar, the crowd, finally having the club back, and it's just something I'm really looking forward to seeing. I don't know if this first game back without Mike Ashley is a year away. I don't know if it's a couple of months away. I don't know if it's 10 years away. But all I know is that it's going to be one hell of a day. Just being able to soak it all up and enjoy it, and it'd be fantastic. And I hope, despite being a couple of 100 miles away, and Sam, I hope you'll still be able to make that one.
I'll be up. There's no doubt about it.
Get the flights booked, lad. But Jason Carter in the comments actually says Germany full international indeed. To be fair to Jason, he comments and watches this show every week, so fair play to him, lad. I will say it's full international as well. I think it's Stuttgart, I believe. Let us know in the comments, mate, who you're supporting going into the Bundesliga this weekend, because I know you're a Toon fan, and obviously Stuttgart makes sense for you to support, but who knows. On to Ben from Exeter with his question. What realistic striker would you bring in after the takeover hopefully happens? Owen, I'll come to you, mate. Who would you be looking for in terms of a striker?
I have a few because I've been thinking about, because when you think of takeover, you think of big money signings, but I think you want to be realistic in these situations. It's something that's been in my head, players that, we could go for that would be attracted by the move, but aren't, £50 million, £60 million signings. I think you're looking at Edouard from Celtic is a big possibility. The lads know I'm a big fan of Morelos from Rangers, so I take him. Lots of red cards. Maxi Gomez from Valencia is someone I've kept tabs on for a couple of years now. From when he was at Celta Vigo, and he has similar stats to what Rondon had last season, and I think he's still young as well, so he could easily make it somewhere along the lines of that. Build a striker, because I think they're pretty good with their feet. They can all hold the ball up. They're all of a reasonable height. Maybe Morelos is the smallest. I think Morelos is only 5'10", but you want that number 9 build. I think that's what Newcastle fans are really thinking about. Is you want someone who can wear that number 9 shirt. They are a proper number 9 forward, no 5'9" pace monsters. We want someone who can hold the ball up, head it in, can run with the ball, can do all sorts. I think that's the type of striker we should be looking at. And I think out of the 3 I mentioned, probably Maxi Gomez or Edouard would probably be the best suited to that.
Fair enough. Sam, you got any strikers in mind?
It kind of depends how realistic you want to keep it, because on Sky today they were saying that it's kind of going to be a slow build. So do you look at a Callum Wilson at Bournemouth? Do you look at a Dembele from Lyon? Do you look at someone like an Alexander Isaac from Sociedad? It depends how realistic you want to keep it, but those are probably them latter 2. Not really. Callum Wilson's not really for me, but yeah, maybe Dembele from Lyon.
Aye, fair enough. There's a question in the comments as well. Does Shearer have a son by Dylan Hilliard again? He does. Will Shearer, I believe he's called. He's on Twitter. He's liked a couple of our posts, hasn't he, Sam, on Twitter in the past?
Yep.
Yeah.
Regular.
Seems a sound lad. Like, if he's watching though, and he wants to start to pop up on the channel for an interview, just get in touch, mate. I'm sure Sam's DMs are open on Twitter, and obviously if you want to get in contact with the Facebook page, you can do as well. But moving on with the WhatsApp messages as well, there's been 2 questions sent in from this lad. Hello, would fans be up for a new ground? I think they were before extending St James Park. New arena built near Sage Gatehead makes room for new ground where the area is now. No, arena is now. Personally, I wouldn't. Lee's got the next question highlighted. I'll answer that in a sec. But a new ground, I personally know. I do really like where St James's is, and you look at other clubs like your Arsenals and teams like that have went for a new season for it. He went to a new stadium. Look, and it's obviously soulless. The Emirates they'll always talk about how great Highbury was and things like that. So personally, I would stick with St James's. And if you want to expand that, the East Stands there. If they want to speak with the council about the land around the stadium, that's a different topic for a different day, I think. But if they're going to look into expand St James, I'd rather they did that. Owen, are you a fond believer in a new stadium, or would you prefer to keep and expand on St James's Park?
Is that a serious question? Because I think any Newcastle fan would go, I'd keep St James's Park where it is. I think I'd definitely expand St James's Park to the extent that you possibly could expand it, because whatever you do with St James's Park, how it is now, it's always going to be that classic stadium. It's always going to have the same foundations that it had years and years and years ago, just with more added onto it. If you move the stadium, you're moving history. You're basically deleting history of the club.
I've had that as well over the past couple of years.
I don't agree with stadiums moving. You look at Upton Park, you look at Highbury, even look at White Hart Lane more recently. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. Yes, Tottenham have been very lucky they've moved into a state-of-the-art stadium, but you just don't get that same feeling as you do from the old grounds.
I mean, that's true. I've been at West Ham's new stadium twice, the Olympic Stadium, and honestly, it's like a cereal bowl. Honestly, it's awful. The atmosphere is dreadful. Like, if I was a home fan going into there and think, no, we're going to get a good atmosphere rocking the day, no chance. It is woeful. I mean, I feel sorry for West Ham fans because they're a passionate bunch, and we've had West Ham Fan TV on the channel before, and the great lads in that. But I feel sorry for them in regards to that ground, like, because they're a passionate support. Upton Park was always spoke about was one of the best atmospheres in the country, and it's just having the life sucked out of them. So I don't want that for Newcastle. I don't want a brand new ground. If they want to build on St James's Park, and I know Freddie Shepherd in the past spoke about wanting our stadium. No, St John Hall spoke about wanting to have our stadium similar to Ajax's stadium, the Amsterdam Arena, somewhat similar to that kind of and similar to that kind of mould. So if they want to expand it, fair enough. But a new stadium isn't for me. Like, if you want to get your comments in and let me know, Dylan Hilliard again. Thanks for chatting with us all through this show, mate. Expand St James's, yeah, because if we get a takeover and things like that, I could imagine 60,000 is well possible. I know we've had shorter attendances earlier on this season due to Mike Ashley, but a takeover with a club thriving, 60,000 would sell out and there'll be a waiting list every year, similar to the way it is at Man United and things like that. But the last question from Unknown, I would settle for the season being scrapped if we got a takeover. Same, actually. Owen, I'll come to you on this, mate. I don't know if you think the same, but I would happily scrap the season tomorrow. I've already spoke about what I think of Corona, like players playing too early in this country in any way. So, Owen, what do you think, mate? Would you scrap the season for a takeover?
It's a difficult one. Something I've never really thought about before, to be honest. I think if we were to be taken over, then it would be difficult for those players, knowing that we have got new owners and they possibly could be going out the door, for them to continue playing and not know their future at the club. I think that could be a problem. But from our point of view, it sounds very simple. But as I said before, the Premier League is so complex with finances, relegations, champions. I mean, you guys were talking earlier about just giving Liverpool the title. They're giving Liverpool the title. But I still don't think you can't give Liverpool the title yet. If they were mathematically champions right now, like, I wouldn't have a problem with scrapping the Premier League and then having no relegations. But and it's very unlikely it will happen. But Manchester City still have the chance to bring it back. Very unlikely, I know, but it's still the chance. And with relegations as well, I think relegations need to take place because you can't give a team a second chance, a second
And
life.
Villa are in the relegation zone currently, so
Exactly, and Bournemouth as well. I'm just putting this rumour to bed as well. I'm not a Bournemouth fan. I hope they go down. But yeah, I think that's as far as my point goes. Really, it's a difficult one. I wouldn't really like to say. I think it would be easy for us though to just cancel the season if we did get taken over.
Well, I think they've got to. If they're going to scrap the season in any way, they've got to go off basically what the League Two have done today and go off their points per game system, which would give Liverpool the league in any way. And I think if that happened in the Premier League, you're looking at West Ham, Norwich, and Villa going down. Now, West Ham, I think, have enough quality to dig themselves out, but Villa, with the injuries that they have, to what's his name, McGinn, in field, with the likes of him and that being injured, I could see them really struggling if anything happens to Jack Grealish. In Norwich, although they do have a couple of decent games at home and have the stadium that they're at, I think it's Carrow Road. Is it Carrow Road? It is Carrow Road. Yes. Making that a fortress to an extent, but I still think they drop, unfortunately. So I think the two of the bottom three is already set. But I think it would be very unfair on West Ham to go down on goal difference, especially with how lacklustre Bournemouth have been this season in particular. But on to the next question. Has anything been mentioned about the FA Cup resuming, or is that just scrapped? Now, if the Premier League got scrapped in line with the last question, you'd think that they'd scrap the FA Cup as well, which would be bloody typical because Newcastle's still in it in May, which is the first time in a long, long time. But at the minute, there is no update. I think the Premier League need to give tell people what they're doing by the 20th, which we're already in training and everything like that. So it would indicate we're going to continue and finish the season behind closed doors. But it's going to be difficult from their mind to finish the FA Cup as well. I think the Champions League might be scrapped because of everything being overseas, unless they go to a neutral venue. It's all still to be played out, I think, with what needs to happen. But in terms of the FA Cup, I'm not sure. But Owen, how good would you be if they just scrapped the FA Cup and said you can have a 4th round spot next season or something like that?
Ridiculous. It's obscene that Newcastle have actually got to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup and it could be scrapped. It's stupid because I'm not saying that Newcastle really have the biggest chance in the world to win the FA Cup, but there's always a possibility, and it's just typical, really. I think there is a way to resume the FA Cup. You just play those matches before the next FA Cup comes around, or you find a way. But again, you have that situation of behind closed doors. This game against Manchester City, it was going to be perfect. Saturday afternoon, 5:00 on the telly. It was going to be a cracking atmosphere. You could feel it. But now, even if those matches are still played and they could be played behind closed doors, is there even the possibility of us progressing in the FA Cup as well? So it's just typical the situation at the moment, and scrapping it would be typical as well.
Well, I've seen a comment before, just give the FA Cup to the team with the most goals. I mean, to give Newcastle the FA Cup after going to 2 replays with Oxford and Rochdale would be comical. Yeah. But I thanks John Bruce for that comment, because it's quite funny, because if they give away an FA Cup after we played 2 more games than everybody else, and scoring against lower league opposition, that would be absolutely crazy. But that's what we've got in terms of your WhatsApp. So thank you for sending them in. In terms of a Q&A, if you want to send further questions into the WhatsApp, let us know. But I've got questions for you too. I've came up with this while I was in the background and not participating in the show. But Sam, I've got a couple of questions for you. And if you two have any questions for me, let us know. But first question I've got for you was, what did you think of the Matt Ritchie interview?
Wasn't really much of an interview, was it? Normally, I'd like to prepare myself. I mean, yeah, it was a nice surprise, as I touched upon earlier. So yeah, for people that don't know, obviously I lost my granddad a few weeks ago now, and on the same day as that happening, my wife, who is currently 8 months pregnant, was admitted to hospital as well for fear of COVID. Fortunately, as I said before, that came back negative. She just had a nasty infection and she's home and fully recovered and ready to pop with our second child. Lee told me that I was doing a podcast for a rival Newcastle United channel, and I log in, and there's Matt Ritchie. Yeah, so obviously you would have only have seen, it's only come out this week because we were waiting for the footage back from BT, but I had 10 minutes with Matt, and thankfully BT did a great job editing it, because the rest of the 8 minutes were pretty cringeworthy. I didn't know what to do, say, or anything. So he's nice as pie, is Matt Ritchie. We spoke about many things, such as corner flags, the New Forest, everything. So yeah, it was an amazing surprise, and thanks for everyone's messages and support and whatnot. It's been really appreciated, and it's helped through a tough time, and we're getting there now.
Well, that's a good question. Jonathan Young, Sam, what's your favourite Thatcher cider flavour?
Somerset Hayes.
Somerset Hayes. I mean, you had a message, didn't you, Sam, about them potentially sponsoring the channel, and it's unfortunately a no. They've had quite a bit of free advertisement from Newcastle Fans TV since Sam joined the channel. But Owen, I don't want to leave you out in the cold, mate. So I'll ask you one of the questions that I do have before we wrap things up in a couple of minutes' time. What made you support Newcastle as a Southern lad? Like, because obviously, I know there's several people that have said it in the past, especially on YouTube, that if you're not of any postcode, you don't really support Newcastle and don't understand. So as a Southern lad, what makes you think that what gave you that like reason to support Newcastle? Was it through your dad, or was it through like other ways and means?
Mainly because my dad. My dad is probably the biggest influence out of all of it. I mean, my dad's from the northeast. He brought up in Hexham, he just that side of the family I used to visit as a kid and all sorts as well, quite regularly. So it's mostly due to him, and you know, it slowly came into it that I became a Newcastle fan, and I'm glad I did. And I have such a big. I think it's stupid that people will say that you have to have that northeast connection to be a Newcastle fan. But I think you can be from anywhere to have an association with a club. And what I feel for Newcastle is, I think what you would feel for it, Kyle, what you would feel for it, Sam, what Lee, what Johnny, what Rob, what Paul would feel for it. And that is just this deep affection for the lads who play in black and white stripes.
I mean, I'm relatively the same kind of story. My dad, if I didn't support Newcastle and I says, "Oh, Dad, I'm going to support a different team," he would have bullied us. To be honest with you, I mean, bless him. And I've never known someone like, when I was a young lad. Obviously, went to all the games and watched as much Newcastle as possible. Before I'd turn around to my dad and says, "Oh, Dad, I'm supporting Arsenal or something," he would have kicked 7 colours of beep out of me. Even at that age, do you know what I mean? Honestly, I wouldn't support anyone else in any way. I haven't known anything else. It's just been a crazy couple of years, and hopefully we can see what Sam's seen in the past with the Entertainers team. What got you into Newcastle, Sam? Was it your dad, or just a special affiliation with seeing Newcastle play?
No, completely opposite. It was quite an organic thing with me. None of my family are really into football, so it was something that I kind of took upon myself when I was just 5 years old. Really, it was the first team that I saw on telly that, pardon the pun, but entertained me. So it was completely organic. I had no idea where Newcastle was in the country. I didn't know they were 200 odd miles away from me, but it was just a team that just captured my imagination, and I completely fell in love with, and I've never looked back. I mean, and I've got a 3-year-old son, and obviously another one on the way very soon. And like you used to, have started supporting Newcastle through your dads, then that's what I'm going to start with my little uns too.
I spot on a couple of more NA29 comments. I've seen I think NA37. I've seen it NA6 before as well. We're getting their postcodes quite
I
frequently.
think my postcode's probably the weirdest out of all of them.
It's the most southern, I know that much. But one thing being on Newcastle Fans TV's made us realise is it doesn't matter what corner of the world you're from or what part of England you're from. When you have a connection and a love for Newcastle United, it's still like a religion to those people. And maybe I've never thought once that maybe because you're from a different area, you think less of a team. But honestly, with meeting people like Owen, like Sam, and many people I follow on the Facebook page, on YouTube, I mean, people from Germany, people from Australia watching this now, that it's unbelievable how far Newcastle's like scope is throughout the world. And I'm sitting in my house in North Shields. You're in Bournemouth, and you're in Wolverhampton, not far off Wolverhampton. And
No,
where how is
Wolverhampton?
Where are you?
Wolverhampton's like 45 minutes from me. I'm in a little village just on the outskirts of Stafford.
Right, Stafford, Bournemouth, North Shields, and we're all connected by this amazing football club. And honestly, even if we do get taken over, you could imagine having loads of new supporters coming in. Jackie Nicholson, Kyle, let's have a pint when this all ends. In the Ballarat,
you'll have a job. He doesn't.
I hate that pub. You know, I really hate the Ballarat. It's horrible. I mean, if anyone's from the Ballarat's watching, I'm sorry, but I really dislike that pub in the area. But I didn't think I'd see the Ballarat anywhere near NFTV. But hey ho, Cooper, what do you think of my transfer suggestions? Cavani, Ben Woodburn, Sepp Vanderberg, Fuchel, Teef Chong, and Reece James.
You lost me, Ben Woodburn.
I thought he had some potential a couple of years ago, but I don't rate him as much now. Reece James, I really rate. I think he's a solid right back, and he would really solve the problem that we have. Although I think Chelsea would turn around and say 35 to 40 million to get him.
I don't think he's going to move from Chelsea personally. I think he's probably their right back for the next 10 years or so now.
Yeah, he's the long-term replacement for Aspilicueta, and he's a fantastic talent. Like, I'm not going to lie. But Ben Woodburn, as I said before, don't rate him that much. I've actually lost track of who the players were. I can say it now. Fuchel, I'm not sure who that is. Teef Chong, is that the one that plays for Man United?
Yeah, the one
the one that keeps hammering under-21s every time he plays with. To be fair, every time he's fed the first team for Man U, I haven't rated him. He missed that blatant open goal against, I think it was Astana in the Europa League. It was awful miss. And to be honest, with him saying he wants to leave Man United and not renew his contract, I could see him playing for like an Ajax or something and developing from there. But at this moment in time, I'll probably say no. But I'll ask you the final question, Sam. Where do you see NFTV's Twitter page being in 1 year's time?
Well, back when we were under discussion of whether I was going to be joining news or not, I told Lee that I reckon I could double your following in 12 months. I don't think that's going to happen now, but who knows? I mean, we've grown a lot in a short space of time. In terms of followers, it is what it is. Spoiler alert. Anyone watching the 8-0 tomorrow? Spoiler alert. I thought it was going to be a close game.
I've heard spoilers and everything, man. No, I'm only joking. I probably worth a watch tomorrow. Champions League Twitter, Jason Carter. It is a fantastic Twitter. More than worthy of top 4. In fact, I'll probably say it's in the top 2 or 3 Newcastle secondary sources on Twitter since Sam's took over, as well as Lee with TweetDeck as well, have done a fantastic job, and they're very coordinated. A bit like Facebook's been for a while, but obviously Twitter's with the likes of Alan St. Maximin and people like that getting involved. It's done magnificent things over the last couple of months, and obviously, and you've said double the following, Sam. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But winding down, we're into the last 90 seconds of the show, and Owen, I'll give me last question to you, lad. What made you interested in joining a fan channel like NFTV? Because I haven't really asked you that since you joined, so I was just intrigued.
To be honest, I was delighted when I got asked by Lee. I think it was a gradual thing, really, because I've been watching the channel since it had started up in the Championship. Watched it all through that season. Made my first appearance on Newcastle Fans TV in the home game against Spurs, which appeared in the Newcastle Fans TV group chat the other day, which was not the nicest surprise. So yeah, made my first appearance then. Gradually popped up on videos every now and again. Obviously, attended both charity matches last year, which I had to make sure I come up on. And then I got asked in the summer whether I'd want to take a role on, and I was absolutely buzzing. And I would never look back, really, because it's been an amazing journey, amazing group of lads we've got here. I've got to interview Matthew Raisbeck, someone that I look up to as a person. I've got to interview Mick Lowe's. Just so many opportunities that I've been given through this amazing YouTube channel. And all I can say is thank you to Lee for having me on, and thank you to the lads for just making me feel accepted and, dealing with me.
I mean, you haven't been that bad, Owen. I mean, we've went over 9 o'clock. That's why I say Owen in the middle of what you said. But that kind of wraps up everything on the Black and White show this week. Obviously, let us know in the comments below if you want head-to-heads to keep going on the channel. It's something I enjoy doing, and I hope it's something you enjoy watching as well. It's been a fantastic show, everyone that's been able to get involved on the show. And next week, hopefully, we've got some big news regarding the takeover. But if not, we'll think up of something to have a fantastic show with regardless. But I've been Kyle, host. Owen, Sam, it's always a pleasure. Lee, always a pleasure. Johnny, fantastic as always. And yeah, catch everyone later. And I hope you have a good week and see you all later. Ta-da.